victim. That word is just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And how estranged kids think that they're the victim, parents think that they're the victim. And Dr. Ruth, I really just wanted to hear from you from a clinical standpoint. How do you classify someone as a victim, or what does that even mean in your world?
That's a good question. I think clinically, somebody who would describe themselves a victim is somebody who doesn't feel like they have any power in what's happening, that things are happening to them. They have no control. They're hopeless. Um, if I was sitting in a session with somebody, I wouldn't label somebody a victim. I would let them know that what they were saying to me, they were describing themselves as a victim and in a victim mode, and why. Um, on the flip side is survivor. People call themselves, generally identify as a victim or a survivor. There's other terms. So thinking of yourself as a survivor as somebody who's empowered and who can make change. They have this internal locus of control to be able to manage what's happening in their environment. I would say probably, I'd have to look at statistics, but I think generally people that come to therapy, seek out therapy or some support in some way, are people who start out at least probably feeling like they're in a victim mode. That's why they're there, because they don't feel like they want something to change. Sometimes they want to know how they can change something, but they want something to change. They want other people maybe to change. So yeah, I'd say most people probably just describe themselves as a victim that are coming in. Yeah, but the only way anything's going to change is if you try to change your mindset to being a survivor and being capable of movement forward.
I remember somebody did say that in the comments about I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. So yeah, you're right. I was reading that in the comments. Aaliyah, what do you think?
I think, yeah, I think it is a frame of mind is how you see your situation. It is easy to fall into like victim mode but I think it's something that like in each situation you have to change your mindset and see it in a whole different way. So I guess I don't know. When it comes to like I feel like I see my mom as she's always the victim, I guess, in a way, because of like, it just seems like she's always miserable and has something to complain about. So I try to pull out the positive things in what she's saying so that way I don't fall into that trap. So I think when you're having a conversation, it's really easy to fall into like somebody who has a negative mindset to fall into the negativity. And so for me, it's just really reframing and catching yourself and realizing when it's happening.
You bring up a very good point, because there's victim and survivor, if we're going to talk about those two, but you don't just stay in victim or you don't just stay in survivor. You can go back and forth between the two. And surrounding yourself with people, like you say, trying to pull out the positive things so that you can stay positive and is real important. And I noticed when all of this estrangement first started happening to me, I, of course, was in the it's only me, what's happened, searching for answers. And I was in groups on Facebook that were validating for me in the sense that I wasn't alone. But then as I read comments, the only thing that was happening in these groups that I was in, it was also negative, and it was just negative. People telling the same stories over and over, and there was no change, no movement. So I got out of all of them because I don't want to be in that victim mode. It doesn't feel good. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your mental health. Spiritually, it's not good. So it's real important to seek out people that are more positive and moving forward.
Yeah, I was fully aware that because I have been, you know, on a spiritual journey and doing a teaching that I now do a version of still for 30 years. I was very aware that when my estrangement happened, I was being a victim, like consciously aware of it. And now my definition of that is, and I was blasted on by my lovely YouTube fans that I have no clue what it means to be a victim. But here's my definition. We've all been victims of something. You can be a victim of child abuse, domestic violence. You can be a victim of a car accident, somebody with no insurance. You can be a victim of bad genetic disposition, and have diabetes or cancer running in your family. Those things you can be a victim of 100%. Nobody's denying that. But what you do with it then is victim consciousness or not. And that's what you guys were both talking about, is having the awareness that you don't want to feel that way. And when I first became estranged, I was also in those groups. I mean, that's where I met, you, Dr. Ruth, and Cheryl. And I tried to seek out therapy, even knowing that it was my work that I was avoiding. I knew it, but I just wanted somebody else to take the pain away. I also just wanted my daughter to come back so I didn't have to feel that pain anymore and acknowledge what was really going on. And of course, I think that was also contributing to why I was estranged from her for so many years. I mean, now it's 4 years and we've reunited, but I also think that I prolonged that because I was waiting for something outside of me to change. And yeah, Serena said, somebody has no agency. Absolutely. And then I think it's you, Lisa, that says, I agree. Most of the estrangement groups are very negative. Yeah, I just went on one today that I'm part of to post the roundtable happening and just read a few of the comments, and just not a lot has changed there. I'm still seeing a lot of the same names, some familiar faces, and, the same stories. Yet not a lot has changed.
I think it's really hard for people too to look at why they're not changing. But I like to try to help people figure out what is this serving? What purpose is it serving for you to be in this victim mode? That's hard for people to look at.
It does feel like somebody else is at fault within this situation. It does feel like, our kids are at fault. They're doing this estrangement thing, or a child is complaining about being abused as a child. So it does feel like to them that is real and that is their world. And again, we're not denying any of it, but we're just saying, you have to make a choice to live in the present moment or continue to just lament in the past. Aaliyah, do you, and I want to go into AI in a minute because I was also just watching a couple other videos. Do you feel like the people that the younger generation, do you feel like they're more victim consciousness? I mean, like you mentioned your mom, you always kind of talk to her, and I feel that same way about my mom. She leans into the negative. But do you feel like your generation is maybe more negative than they should be?
I don't, I honestly, I feel like it's the older generation. I don't feel like it's my generation, but it just kind of, I think it depends on the situation, but I don't feel like I know everybody like with me and my sisters. That's what I spend a lot of time with family more than friends. And we seem to just have developed a positive perspective on life rather than a negative. But
I'm curious, Aaliyah, do you ever hear Lisa and I say anything that strikes a chord in you about victim mode? Because maybe I'm not conscious of, I would like to know. I'm just guiding you to always tell me that sounds like a victim, because I don't feel like I am and I don't want to be. But I think a lot of times we present in a way we're just not aware of. So yeah, I'm inviting you to tell me.
Yeah, no, I think we have. I think we've worked through it, especially on other roundtables, right? We've worked through some of the things that have struck a chord between like Jillian and I, and between Jillian and Cheryl. I know there's been some things that we've pointed out that we've kind of just like talked through.
Okay.
So, but yeah, not off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Whatever comes up, just say so.
Okay.
I want to ask you another question, Aaliyah, especially you being in your field and being a digital nomad that you are and coming to visit me. Thank you very much. And you and Ryan both just kind of being in that computer digital world.
Right.
So I was watching a video on AI today and Chat GPT. And for a lot of you who don't know what that is, I was just explaining it to Dr. Ruth. And basically, it's almost just very human anymore. And basically it was a video on our privacy and how we're giving that up and how we're all being harvested and how the internet now just has a blueprint of all of us on every single thing that has been said and done, and that can easily be used against us with government and law or anything else, and taken out of context too, by the way. Every conversation, just every single thing we do is being recorded, and is there's a digital blueprint of every single one of us now. It's very hard to maintain privacy. I fight every time, like I have to agree to a website's cookies. If it's too much work, I will just log off. I won't go with it. I rarely carry my phone around. People who try to reach me are very frustrated because I just really don't like having my phone around. Certain conversations I don't even like having on the phone, or my husband and I talk about certain things. I'm like, let's get rid of our phones, just because it's the level of awareness that we are being recorded on every level. It's happening.
Yeah.
So, and just how scary it is. And I'm actually, when I post this on YouTube, I'm going to leave the video that I was watching about privacy and Chat GPT and what's how it's ruining our lives and helping our lives. I mean, we're not going to get away from this digital age and how great it is on so many levels. We can't deny that, and it's here to stay, and it's just part of the world that we live in. But we just have to be aware of this. But we are being targeted. We are easily being marketed. So if you are complaining about your parents and you're estranged from your parents, and now you're even putting in a Google prompt or a Chat GPT prompt, something about your parents, or that you hate them or had an argument or whatever, you're very much going to be singled out and targeted to fuel that hatred against your parents.
Yeah.
And I think we can all be on this call and probably be very aware that this is happening in the world that we live in, because it wasn't our world, being older generations. And I see my kids just easily giving away their privacy. Like, you have to agree to all of those things in order to get access to something that you want. We're not reading those privacy policies. We're not. And you're just saying yes, 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 and you're giving that information away. You're donating a kidney, basically.
Exactly.
What Can't get around it. What are your thoughts on that, as far as young people in the context of estrangement being targeted, the hate being fueled? And part of the reason I'm bringing this up too is when I was on that Facebook group earlier, I was reading some comments about what some kids were saying to their parents, to their face, or emailing them or texting them. Really unbelievable things that these kids had said to their parents, of course, that would cause them to not want anything to do with their kids anymore. And I don't blame them after reading some of these comments. But what are your thoughts on that? Just that it's potentially, there's a third party that we can't even see that's contributing to the hate that's happening within our generations.
Yeah, I say uh, there just needs to be more digital detoxes. Like that's gonna need to be a thing. I don't think that's like, yeah, people shut off their phone for a day or something like that, but I just don't think the awareness is there yet about giving out our information. It's normal, right? It's normal to log on, accept the cookies so you could browse the site that you're on. Like I don't know how many times I've done that. Just like accept and just not even it's completely normal to do that. Like if you see an ad that comes in and just flags and stuff, you're just used to all of these distractions. And and I think like if you go looking for it, you put something out there, you're gonna find it. And that's the way with the internet. I remember Jillian one time saying that like when as soon as you log into those groups, like you find more and more of them. It's hard. Like if you don't go out there and seek something more positive, then you just get fueled by that hate. So it's honestly, you have to take it into your own hands and change your own algorithm, right? Because we're the ones who set up our algorithm. I like how on Netflix now, like it'll tell me what I need to watch. Like we get excited about those kind of things, but we have to, I think, stop and remember like how much information we're giving away too.
I don't even know how all that starts. It just, I didn't know, I don't even know what cookies are. I do see those messages and I know not to accept them or whatever you do. But how does anybody even educate themselves about that? I mean, you have to look that up and then they know you're looking that up. So it's just way overwhelming. I don't even know
Right.
where to start to try to educate myself on this and what's happening. Maybe I
Well,
can.
don't for one.
Okay.
Just try,
You guys
try
just
to
tell me what to do and what
stay
not
off
to
your
do.
computer and stay off your phone as much as you can. I evolved with the internet because I was a photographer and I took my business online. So I really, over the course of just the internet becoming what it is, I evolved with it. And I was Google Analytics certified at one point. It was a lobotomy. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done. And they don't even have it anymore because everything changed so quickly that you just can't even keep up with it. And I remember when target marketing first came out, and my kids were in their late teens, early 20s, and I warned them about this. And their comment was, I like somebody else knowing what I need and what I'm thinking and what I should
Right.
see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you just said, Aaliyah. You like
I
Netflix
just
I
showing
said
you the
know.
that.
type of movies that I don't like it either.
See, that's a
It's
generational thing
creepy to
then,
me.
probably.
It
Yeah,
is.
no, I don't like that at all. And I
And
never like anything like on when Netflix asks you if you like something, I don't do it
I
because
don't either.
I figured out that part that I'm telling them what I want and they're getting to know me and they're going to target me for something. No.
There was a book, it's out now. I haven't read it. I don't think I don't know if I will read it, but it was written by a Google exec and it's called Scary Smart. And basically what's happening right now is that Chat GPT and AI and the robots are gathering information based on what they're fed, what they're reading. Of course, that's all they're doing. They're just harvesting information. Well, as we know, the most vocal people online are the haters.
Right.
And so this is what AI is beginning to think is normal, because anybody who doesn't even want to participate in that stuff is just going to shut it off and not participate. But the haters just really get going. And so that's what we're cultivating. You know, like, and somebody in the comments said, I think it was Jenny, my daughter's very clever. I'm afraid she is in those groups under a fake name. Even using a fake name, you're still identified. And that's also where this so much, bravery comes in with the hate speech and everything else, is you're under a fake profile or a fake name, but AI knows who you are, and that's creating part of your profile. You are not anonymous, but they think that they are.
Yeah. It's crazy. I know Facebook and Instagram are at least trying to hack down on like fake users and stuff like that because there are, there's AI users out there that they're not even real people, that like one Instagram account has like a bunch of followers and it's just all AI images. And so it
Yeah,
is,
because it knows what everybody wants. Yeah.
so it's wild. I get excited about it because I do use it and you have to train it, but like you have to feed it the prompts and train it. So yeah, the more information that's gathering, it is kind of scary to think like the people who should probably be participating aren't. So it's getting this information that is skewed.
Yes. About like what humans like or how they respond or what they are, or the
Right.
parent-child relationship. I mean, I just think that's what's feeding into it. We didn't go from 72 million estranged families to 85 million estranged families in less than a year without something else going on.
Mhm.
And I really hope that our conversation can raise the awareness around that to where more people will scratch their head and just say, there's got to be more to this than just bad parenting.
Right. Has to be a better way, right? To communicate with each other, not just stop communicating altogether. So, and that's why, like, when I started working with you as a way to build a bridge in between, like, how do we have a safe place for these real conversations to happen? And then while they're not happening, just taking the time to work on yourself, taking the time to accept responsibility of what happened, right? Because it doesn't just happen for no reason, it happens because maybe there is a lack of responsibility that has been taken by either party. And so,
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Ruth, going back to where we started with this with you, did you do you feel like people coming into your psychological setting are saying, help me take responsibility for getting better? Or is it, what are you going to do to fix me?
I think generally people come into, they want everything else around them to change and they want to talk about how they're feeling. But people in general aren't voluntarily saying, I did this thing. I want you to help me figure out how to change myself. They can get to that point, but that's not generally how people come in. They they want the other things around them to change. How can I make these other things change? So that I feel better. But that's not really where the work is. And I think we're going to talk about control in AI. There's control in insurance and things too, that people in private practices are, a lot is driven by insurance and what they dictate and say they'll pay for. And you have to diagnose somebody if you want insurance to pay. Most people aren't going to be able to afford to private pay. And not everybody has a diagnosis. They don't meet criteria for that. So there's a lot of outside things that are dictating what therapists and psychologists do and how they treat.
yeah.
It's hard just having people coming in and figuring out how to help them, and then you have that layer of somebody else outside dictating how that's going to happen, how they want you to work with that person.
Yeah. Well, and then like you and I had a conversation about how diet plays a role in somebody's mental well-being. Exercise or lack of exercise plays a role in somebody's mental well-being. And I was just telling you, I just heard a statistic. If you exercise at least 30 minutes a day for only 3 times a week, you can prevent Alzheimer's by 30%. That's huge.
That is huge.
30%. Everybody start walking. At least 3 times a week. Move your body every single day if you can, but at least just to protect your brain. But it's hard because our food is toxic and poisonous, and healthy food is so expensive. I mean, it's very hard to take. Go ahead.
Looking at organic foods, I've done some things, changed things in my eating. Even learned to can and buy from a local market and that kind of thing. And I asked them if they spray chemicals, because so many things just affect your mental health too, not your physical, just your physical, but mental health. And excuse me, even organic, we're misled by what organic is. It's not chemical free. Organic farms are still able to spray certain things. So, we try, but we just don't get the information. We're not informed, and we have to, do that for ourselves. It's a rough world out there now. It's very different than what it was when I was growing up.
It is. It is a rough world. Well, let's go ahead and bring some. I know there's been a lot of comments being made in the chat, so I'd like to bring you guys in. You've brought up some interesting points, and I'll just go ahead and have you kind of expand on it a little bit. So go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. As far as where did the 85 million number come from, 72 to 85, that was we did a topic on that, and it's on the YouTube channel. And I did reference the link of where that came from, and I believe it was a Dr. Phil episode, the episode that he did on estranged parents. So, and that just recently jumped to 85 million families being estranged. So that's where that came from. One other thing in this conversation, and just everything that I've been following with AI and just everything that we've been talking about. And now that I've got a relationship back with my daughter and I'm able to see things very differently. There's so many things that I'd want to say to young people. Part of them, they don't want to hear anything that I have to say. And truly, as much as we try to give a voice to this, I think the most frustrating thing is that people just don't even have the attention span anymore to watch an entire episode to get the full context of what all of us have talked about and said. That's becoming very evident that on YouTube, they will take one little thing out of the video and completely tear it apart without even having the full context. And I think that's just an important thing to realize for parents. So let me just talk to parents for a minute. We don't have all the information. We don't really know what our kids are going through. So before, and I know I get it because I talk to so many of the haters on YouTube and they're nasty. And yeah, if they were my kids, I wouldn't want them in my life either. So let me just say that. But you're a parent and you raised your child and you saw goodness there when they were growing up. Okay. Let's say they were a beloved child by teachers and their peers. Okay. You had a hand in that. You raised a good human being right there. I want you to just trust that that is there. Because to somebody's core, that will always be there. Yes, there are abusive parents and families, and I'm not addressing that right now. So the YouTube haters don't have to bash me for what I'm saying. But for parents, I just will always encourage you to keep an open mind and heart because of so many of these things that we just talked about today are playing in the background of our kids' lives, and they might not even be aware of it. Leah and I both just being in the internet world and marketing world. I mean, we kind of know what's happening behind the scenes, behind the background. But Dr. Ruth just said she didn't even know what cookies were. And a lot of you might not, but your kids are in that world and they're being, and it's a strong word, they're being targeted because they're oversharing or they've shared one thing too many. So as a parent, please just keep in mind before you write them off and slam the door that we're dealing with a lot of many different contributing factors to this. And it's not just one thing. And you might have to fall back on just knowing that you were a good parent and you instilled something very good in your children, and that will always be there.
Yeah, I know my mom always says that when she talks to me when we talk, and she's all like, I did a good job. I raised you well. So that's always something that she takes a lot of pride in. So.
And that's hard when parents right now are just on, the chopping block for being the most horrible humans on the planet because we don't even know what we did wrong. But it's very difficult because you do start to question if you did anything right. And that's where a lot of that work comes into for a parent. I think that inner work that Dr. Ruth was referring to is, you have to dive deep during times like this. And maybe it's meant to be, because right now we're all supposed to be moving into the wisdom phase of our life. So what does that look like? Well, perhaps we need a crisis to get us there. And so that's always going to be the invitation. If you join our community or if you don't or do the workshop, this is always going to be the context of what we're talking about, is that by you doing your inner work and your soul searching, you're able to make a shift that influences things that are beyond your control, that you don't even have to worry about. You don't even have to think about. Lisa says, does it bother you when your mom says that? That's a good question.
I don't think so. At first it did. I'm like, really? But lately, like, I can see it, especially like where she is at in life now. All she has is like the pride and what she accomplished in the past, because she's not really doing anything more with her life. She's just kind of chose to retire and not do a lot. So I think at first it was annoying, but now I'm like, yep, you did. So there's no, like, she did do a good job. I'm so grateful for the life that I was provided.
But for all of those of you who may not have heard the episode that we had a few months ago, Aaliyah was ready to write off her mom again. So this is the hope. This is the message that we want to get out there and hold on to, is it's not always a lost cause. Even if your kid is telling you one thing, they just might be angry and just let them be angry. Let them go for right now. But I was shocked at that episode, Leah. Dr. Ruth, go ahead.
I was just wondering, it made me think about like circling back to the victim survivor modes. I wonder if Aaliyah, you can speak to when you felt like a few weeks ago, estranging again, were you in a victim mode, or do you know?
I don't know. Like, it's hard to like look back now. I just know I was stressed, right? It was more of stress and a lack of control. So possibly like that's what victims do, right? It's a lack of control over her choices and what she was choosing. And I wanted to control more of those things.
Okay.
And so I think the fact that I couldn't control them, that's why I wanted to estrange again, right? I just wanted to like be done, because she obviously wasn't taking my advice. She wasn't hearing what I had to say. So it was like talking to the same person over and over again, like, well, you did this to yourself. And so I think it was just the lack of control that I had over her that it just like drove me insane. And then I had to decide, like, I don't I can't control her at all. So I just
Yeah.
love her instead.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do, is realize you can't control something outside of yourself and accept it. And
Right.
that's hard. Yeah, I struggle with that.
In your defense, you were dealing with a lot. I mean, I know a lot of in the background of what you're dealing with work, but also with your mom, just so everyone knows, she's kind of choosing to be at the end of her life and, eating more preferred junk food, which I'm not going to blame her for that because I'm probably going to be ordering a lot more pizzas toward the end of my life as well. But I just remember during that time, because I know you and I know you have a heart of gold,
Yeah.
but during that episode, seeing your frustration and being willing to like write her off and be done. And I think we all kind of felt like it was a hard conversation. And we all kind of felt like, well, was that our last conversation? Did we just implode? That was really hard. But
Right.
so it was difficult to kind of watch that. And I remember one of the parents on that call uh, wrote me a long letter afterwards, just blasting me on everything, like most people do, saying, I can't relate to what this girl is saying at all. I have nothing to relate to what she's saying. She doesn't even want to take care of her parents and their older age. What kind of person is this?
Yeah.
And I said to her, I'm paraphrasing, you need to wake up because this is what all of our kids are saying. They don't have the bandwidth to
Right.
take care of us, to deal with us right now, to go to therapy with us, to take our phone calls. They don't have the bandwidth. This isn't an Aaliyah and Jillian thing.
Mhm.
This
Right.
is a younger generational thing. And this is really what we need to understand is that you guys are dealing with a lot. And when we put our stuff on you, it's too much.
Yeah. I just think, yeah, I think is working through it for yourself. I think that's where you guys have seen so many different phases of like when I'm struggling with the relationship, keeping the relationships. I think it's just growing through it, right? Because we have this community here too. It's been nice to like
Mhm.
have you guys to lean on.
Yeah, I love having this community and um, everybody in it. It's just been really helpful, insightful. I love especially having Aaliyah and Jillian and the generations to tap into and question and listen to them and see what's going on, because we don't know unless you tell us. So it's great to have access to you. Appreciate you being available.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you do live in a different world. You do
You
have different
do.
insights that we don't know about.
Hmm.
You really don't.
And you guys have too, just like speaking to you and just making it worth like what I go through with my mom. You guys help with just supporting and understanding.
Oh, and vice versa. You've helped me so much with the relationship with my daughter, just understanding still going through everything, and really just me working with you too, and just seeing how busy you are, and Jillian, and just us always trying to accommodate the two of your schedule always reminds us that we have a lot more free time than you do.
Yeah.
You're really trying to do a lot right now, and especially somebody in their late 20s who's launching another career. You do
Yeah.
not have a lot of free time, so we're always so grateful that you give us that time. But as a parent too, I think we also just need to realize that is that if we have kids who are raising their kids and trying to work and trying to have a successful romantic relationship with their spouse, and everything else that they have going on, and inflation and a crashing economy and world wars and everything else that's going on right now, and
Hmm.
ChatGPT, you know, the parent-child relationship is at the very bottom of that list. And that's why it's so important for parents to get a life and to have life outside of their kids and grandkids, so that you don't come into that feeling like a burden. And unfortunately, I don't want to use that word, but that's what it feels like to our kids now that I have been having these conversations with you guys for a year. Is a parent can't feel like a heavy burden because you guys have too much.
Yeah, that's what's going to get. I'm thinking of a plant. What's the word when pruned? Those kind of things are going to get pruned away. And I do it myself in, in my work and life and trying to find, home life and trying to find a balance for that. I'm pruning away everything that's a burden. Yeah, I do the necessary things. Yeah, try to add a few things that bring me joy, but yeah, pruning away all the other stuff.
And that makes me think too about the victim conversation and being a victim, because I'm aware when I'm being a victim, like right now. Okay, I'm aware when I'm having the pity parties, and I have to do something to get myself out of it. Okay, it's just like, you don't eat pizza every single day because you know how it makes you feel. You have it occasionally, and then you get back on track. I mean, it's very much victimization that we do to ourselves. It's very much the same thing. Walking away from our phone, doing that inner work, just doing those things that make you feel better. It has to be a conscious choice. And putting your self-care first, especially as a parent, because now you do have that time to really focus on bettering yourself. We have Farah in our community is on her way to Italy right now. She's never done anything like that for herself ever in her life. And she's taking this world trip with her best friend, 70 years old, got her husband situated, her dog situation. She just decided to do it. We have another gal in our community who ran her first 5K. I mean, just things like that you really have to fall in love with your life and create a life that you love. And then let your kids come back into that world.
Yeah. That's a great way to describe it. Yeah. Fall in love with your life. I like that. Yeah.
Create a life you love.
Yeah. Because they're gonna want to, they'll be drawn to that. Because it's gonna, I think so, Leah, maybe you can, I don't know, tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but it just seems like that when we're in a healthy space and we're in love with our life, and we're going to exude being positive and happy and joyful and all these great energies that they're going to be drawn to, and those won't be a burden to them, and it'll be something that feeds them.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
I agree. It's hard for me to speak to my mom sometimes because I know she has nothing going on, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, okay, what'd you watch on television? What'd you eat for lunch? What'd you do here? So it's nice when they have something else going on because then you have something to talk about and you have something to relate to and stuff. So
it's not as much work.
It's not like work every time you go there.
Yeah, or if it's like, oh, my mom's calling, I have to talk to her. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. That's why I always make a point to just let my phone go to voicemail, and I call my kids, a few hours later. Oh, I was so busy. Did you call me? Make it think like they're missing out on something, not like I'm sitting around waiting for them to call. I honestly used to. I used to just hang on that time that they would call me. Now it's like I might be busy. I don't know if I'll be sitting around or not, So true. All right. Well, we can wrap it up unless anybody else has something else to say. Anybody else want to jump in or say anything real quick? Everybody's being very quiet today. Do you guys have any final thoughts on AI being a victim? What would your message to your generation be?
If you're going to write something positive. Start treating the AI that we're nice people.
Contribute something positive. That's good.
I don't know enough about it to have a last thought. I'm just going to follow what Aaliyah says to do. Write something positive somewhere.
What about being a victim?
A victim to AI?
Well, victim in
That's what
general. You
I'm a
said
victim to AI.
because you don't know it.
I don't know it. I don't like not knowing.
I know you don't. That's driving you crazy. You said like you mentioned there being a victim to a survivor. Maybe we need to challenge people to be thrivers and not survivors, because
Yeah,
that's still a victim mode.
it seems like, yeah, a thriver. So each day, find something that you're thriving at, and write it down. So you eventually will have a really long list of things that are positive that you have accomplished and um, are good at, have been successful. Yeah. Then you have something to refer to when you fall back into that victim mode.
Yeah, absolutely. And here I'm going to put in the chat the workshop if anybody wants to join us. It's because we won't be meeting for the roundtable next month. But again, I just want to encourage parents to keep more of an open mind. With the distance, I know you can have too much time on our hands and think too much and get too far into our own thoughts that it becomes detrimental. But maybe, and the other thing is really don't push your kids right now. If they're asking for space and distance, let them have it.
Yeah.
Absolutely let them have it. Because if you push and push and push, you might get something so negative that is hard to come back from.
Yeah.
So don't allow that to even become a possibility. Time is our friend during estrangement. It really is. I know it doesn't seem like it. It seems torturous. I know the holidays are around the corner. Get into a community, find a supportive community, join ours, whatever you need to do, but just find a life that you love living. It's absolutely the path to take. And let your kids go for now. Again, statistically, estrangement does not last a lifetime. So hang on to that. Just let them go for now. Let them find their place. Trust that you did a good job. Just really trust that.
Yeah. And I would add to, in finding that life that's worth living or that you love, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a big trip or anything like that. It can just be, think about something that maybe brings you joy. Even I was talking to Lisa earlier about the thing that's bringing me joy a lot, especially this morning, is my view. And that's why I look so light, because I've got the sun shining in on me. But one thing that brings me joy is watching plants grow. And in my yard, I insist on being the one that mows, because I'll come across a little pine tree that's coming up and I mow around it and I mark it so it doesn't get mowed down again. And so I'm finding joy in just those little things that I'm not really doing anything. I'm just out there and I find it. So just it's just a little thing, but it can just be really powerful.
Yeah. And if you keep falling back to victim mode, for lack of a better word, where you're angry and sad, it's signaling there's something in you that needs healed.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with your kids, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's all them. But it really is signaling that that's some inner healing work that you need to do. Okay. All right. Lisa, thank you for the hearts. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And just remember, we won't meet for the next 2 months because we're going to give Jillian her space and let her launch her career. We're not going to put that pressure on her. But if you're part of our community and on our email list, then we'll do some things for the holidays and offer some more things. But join our workshop if you can. All right. Aaliyah, Dr. Ruth, thank you. I'm so grateful for both of you. And thank you to all of you who've joined us. And we will see you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.